Sure.
Remember everybody's name?
Well, you don't have to say anybody that's not here.
Okay. Dave Treadwell, Dick Bennett, Sarah Kimball, Steve Davis, Gary, Kathleen Valerie, and John Allen. And I should.
So let's see, we have 3 alternates and only 2 will be voting tonight. What's the hierarchy here?
Toss a coin, I don't care.
Should be B, right? And then, I'm not sure which between.
Why don't you 2 be the voting members? You don't mind.
Oh, I don't care.
You still get to speak your mind and say everything you have to say. And
Not gonna be able to shut up
You're right.
And then public comment. Any of the spectators? Not you. You're on the agenda. We're thinking of all those other people out there. Yeah. Okay, then we will go. Oh, there is one thing. I guess my term is up, and we have to go through the people's terms. I don't think it was correct in the town warrant.
They had a lot going on at the same time, didn't they?
Thank you very much.
And I think we should have that list, I guess, and expiration dates, so we can really keep track of it. I would like to remain on the planning board,
Is that at the selectmen?
and I can't remember who else was up.
There seemed to be a lot,
Yeah.
Dick. To me, it seemed like there was a...
There was more than the
Yeah,
usual
normal, right,
increments
right.
of people moving on.
But I think according to the meeting we just had, that whether you've been on it or not, or want to be on it again, you have to reapply for it. So you have to make sure you sign this little piece of paper that said you want to be on it again.
Right, well, the
Okay,
town clerk
told you?
cornered me and said,
Well, you know, according to the 2013 end fiscal year, so this most recent annual report, it says that you expire in 2016.
I may expire in 2016, but my term on the planning board is actually up this year. We looked at the,
Oh, wow, so they've got it on here.
so I've got a, it's not
Okay.
right.
I have a list dated 2012, and it says that John was 2012 for 1 year, and then me and, Ray Abbott's gone down, David Treadwell, Larry Siebert, Darren, and Dick are all up in 2014.
Okay.
There was some, it seemed funny.
I don't know,
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
So,
but I don't know, some of that is a little out of date because there's people listed on there who are no longer on the bid.
but I think the dates are more accurate than what was in the town warrant.
And
So I think that's what she used, that's weird.
It might,
it may be that Larry's alternate term was expiring then. Did he become a full member more
Right.
recently, maybe?
Yes, he did.
I was thinking that maybe. So maybe his term is different now.
All right, we'll figure it out. We'll go through it
Great.
and try to get appropriate letters into the selectmen to see if they will reappoint us as smiling members of the planning board. So the first item is Burr Phillips, who's going to speak briefly on
did you
flood.
want to deal with the minutes?
Oh, right, the minutes. Did everybody get it?
Any propaganda to send out for the April 10th meeting? Promote it?
I think we definitely should try to get some material out for that.
Obviously, the news, but it's, it costs money, of course.
Any comments on the minutes?
I did have a comment that I mentioned to you before the meeting started about the proposal, the approval of the Davis Evans Black Mountain Road property there. My question was, the frontage was only 100 feet as opposed to our zoning ordinance, which says needs to be 200 feet. How do we get, how do we get around that, is what I wanted to know.
Or how they get around it.
Yes,
Well, it is a lot of record.
excuse me?
It's it's a grandfathered lot.
Okay,
And what we did was make it a better situation.
okay.
I have the same question from the Gabriel Brown lot line adjustment that we did, and Brown only ended up with a 40-foot swath into his lot, which was landlocked. And he was accessing it through Simons, I think. And they went through the whole thing, and we approved it, and I was questioned by the building inspector today, who was going to deny the building permit. I said, no, they went through the whole thing to get enough road frontage to put a driveway in. Now, we're accepting that because it's a lot of record. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. I think the state has something out there that if it's a non-conforming use, you want to try to do what you can to make it less non-conforming.
Mhm.
And I think that may even be in our ordinance.
It's improving a bad situation.
That's
Right.
right.
Right, well,
Even
he
though it may
had...
not follow the letter thing, we can, I think they still have to go through the ZBA. I think that's really, it has to be denied by the building inspector, and then even though it's not 200 feet, it would still, it could be, if they decided to, let the ZBA approve it because of the, obviously, what we were talking about, the fact that it's a maybe
Non-conformity.
better situation. But I think that's the way the process would be.
Well, Brown's building
It's been-
application is in front of me. And I didn't remember it being the process of going to the ZBA. Once we accepted the lot line adjustment for that purpose, I thought that was the end of it.
I mean, like I said, it was landlocked. Now it has 100 feet, but doesn't meet the 200 feet
Right.
minimum.
Right.
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think the board here can decide that. I think the ZBA has to make that decision, that the 100 feet is exempted under, whatever hardship, whatever they want to grant. I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, I think that's the way the process is. I may be wrong on that, because I'm not an authority on it, but
It's a lot with no frontage.
the lot had no frontage.
Which one's Evans? Not Evans, which one?
No,
I'm talking about Evans, they're talking about Brown.
this
It
is
it seems
Brown.
to me that if someone has a lot with no frontage,
And you give it some.
and they wanted to build on it, by the town regulations, they can build on it. There's nothing that I'm aware of, it's a lot of record, there's nothing aware from the town's perspective to build on, other than RSA 674-41 says you're not allowed to do it. So if they get, to my mind, if they get 1 foot of frontage, which is now RSA 671 or whatever, would allow you, 674-41 would allow you to build on it.
And I agree with you. I don't disagree with that, but I think as far as the building inspector is concerned, he has to follow the town ordinance, which says they need 200.
But not for a lot of record.
Okay, that may be wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I
Unless
thought.
Unless you're saying Unless you're saying when you move, maybe that's the point you're making, is maybe when you move the lot line, it's no longer a lot of record. Is that your, if that's your
I
point?
mean,
then
I wasn't
guess-
thinking that
Well,
a
just,
lot of.
to me, it seems like the way it's structured is the planning board in the subdivision process either creates or does not create a lot. Once it's a lot, then, when we create a lot, we ensure that it's a buildable lot.
Right, if it's a subdivision and they're creating lots like this, that's one thing. But this is a lot of record, both of these are actually lots of record. Both of them have been lived on, one with a trailer, one with a little cabin. And now we're making it a better situation, so I think
I
that
disagree with
is.
that. I was just,
Okay,
I think that's, my point is, I think that's where Goody is coming from.
yep,
Is that he went by the ordinance which said 200 feet, that's why he turned it down. Whether we can override Goody, or whether the ZBA can override Goody is my question.
well, I'm gonna give him RSA 671
Okay.
and see how he reacts to that.
Okay.
But it should be that is then straightforward, I should say.
That's probably what I'm just saying, I can't think for Goody, obviously, but I think that's what he was probably going by, was a 200-foot thing. He may be enlightened, as I am right now, so it's fine.
Well, we talked today, I was here this morning with him, and I said I would get everything I could, because he wants to approve the building, but
Oh, yeah.
he doesn't
I'm
want
not-
to
I'm-
overstep
I'm-
either.
Oh, I just want to make sure it's done.
Yeah, we want to do it correctly.
To me, it seems like if you get 1 foot, you satisfy the state RSA. However, I'm not sure if the town, the planning board, I guess you can allow it by waiver, can approve a lot with less than the minimum. I mean, for any subdivision, you wouldn't approve a lot with less than the minimum amount of frontage. I mean, I'm thinking back to 2005, 2006, Sean Doucette has some land up off of Parkers Road.
Right.
He was trying to get access to develop that land, and at that time, he was emphatically told by the selectmen at the time that if you get frontage, you need to get, the 200 feet of frontage. Something less would not do it. At least that was what, at that time, he was told by the selectmen.
Do we need to relook at that again to see whether we want to change it to make it more easy for people to put applications in? Maybe reduce it to 100 rather than, or 150 rather than 200? So you open up more lots for people?
I think that's going to be one of our questions for the
Survey?
town survey.
Okay.
It is a unique situation. That's the-
I mean, it
But
sounds-
I am interested about Sean's being denied now. That's a different case.
Plus, he couldn't get there from here.
It was,
He couldn't get there.
He was
Right, it
trying
was
to
the
get
driveway.
access through Ann Hughes.
And
right.
I don't
And the
think
driveway was not allowed.
he wasn't getting any frontage. Well, anyway, went to a private road, but he was only getting a right-of-way to that lot.
Well, I think there was some discussions of them actually deeding a strip of land to him,
Right,
but it wasn't going to be a 200-foot wide strip of land.
right,
Also,
it's
there
going
was
to
a
be
lot
50
of
feet.
concern that the access road was so steep, it was 18% to that house in Smith House,
Right.
Partridge Road, and people are saying that never should have been granted at that 18% grade, and that any other houses there should, no other houses should have to go up that same
Right.
path, and they couldn't find another way that he could get access up there.
Well, I guess they later came back and said, okay, in order to get the frontage, well, let's actually design a road off of, what's the one on the left there? Is it
Cyrus?
Cyrus, off of
Oh.
Cyrus. So they were actually going to design a road that came in at the top of Cyrus, went up that sort of woods road, and looped around. And the engineer that came with that plan, came
But
with
they-
a plan that wasn't even close, in my mind, passing the straight face test. It was
Oh,
20% grade at the intersection, and then on the inside of the turn, it was steeper than that.
Yeah,
And they had a tightest turn possible coming downhill at like an 18% grade with a 12-foot high retaining wall, no guardrail, anything.
It wasn't wide enough.
$1 million, $2 million.
Right, I mean, it was just, I just, at the time, I just said I was going to recommend approving this.
And also, part of that was that there were already deeded, no, there was restrictions on record because of a turnover in ownership of the other lots. In order to do any more development in there, it had to be brought up to be a
Upgraded, so that
spec
the
road.
It's still there.
Partridge had to be upgraded.
Yeah.
That was lifted for Partridge, but not Cyrus. Because I think they never approved Cyrus, but they did approve Partridge.
All right.
Is it okay if I don't take notes of that? I didn't understand the Brown one, and we're still on the minutes, and I'm a little confused.
Anyway, I think that I've gotten an answer to what I was
Okay.
getting at. And it was a diversion from our initial plan, which is the minutes of the last meeting, and your question,
And you answered that, that was a grandfather law.
yeah? So how are we on the minutes?
Move to accept?
All in favor?
Aye.
There it is. Burr, would you speak with us about the floodplains?
Yeah, I think there was a couple other issues came up, or things. I'll talk about those a little bit. But the floodplain one, I think Betsy had brought up, and other people brought up that the floodplain, some of the floodplain lines seem to have changed with this latest flood insurance rate map update, flood sturdy, exactly with that. And I know particularly at the Larry Davis Thompson House Eatery, there was concern there of how far out the floodplain is extended. And there were some questions as to whether that map, whether the new maps are accurate or not. And I think sort of my response to it was they may or may not be accurate, but in order to do a study to figure out whether they are or they aren't, it's just a considerable amount of money to do a study. And Bartlett, I'm involved with one for the Morrill site, so the town was donating some land from Stony Morrill to build like a rec center, community, athletic fields, those sorts of things. This land's all floodplain, so I was looking at the flood insurance rate map for that one, and it's clearly off for that Bartlett Brook. So I spoke with FEMA about it and talked to a few people, got up to a substantially high engineer, and he looked at it and he agreed, this is bogus. Their information is clearly wrong. And his comment was, however, your answer is live with it or do a study and prove to us that it's not.
Yeah.
So for that small brook, it was going to be $15,000 to do the study. They were actually going to move forward with it. But for something like the Ellis and Wildcat, it would be a substantial study.
It's going to be substantial.
So you either live with it or you have a pretty good sized investment. And then how people should do it is, the line on the paper, just I guess a little bit of information, the line on the paper is not particularly accurate on the paper itself. But in the flood insurance study, they give you a precise profile to the nearest tenth of a foot along the river. So if you have accurate topography on that same datum, you can take that profile, project it out horizontally, and that's really where the floodplain is. That's the accurate number. A lot of times that's off. And so people will do a LOMA, letter of map amendment, to FEMA, which is not a very difficult thing to do, and then you can adjust, then that's the new floodplain based on that LOMA. So for me, if somebody's got a concern, that's the step I would do is, accurately plot the flood profile on the accurate topography, and then you'll know where you stand. I don't know if that was the question you were asking, but I gave you an answer.
One of the things that startled me, I think, on the build-out study is that it indicates that we could get a total of, well, we could get a total, let's say, of 82 housing units in the village, and we already have something like 141. Some disparity like that. And So she was surprised that we basically have already sort of achieved build out more in the village. And I'm just wondering, since the village really is not densely populated at all, whether by commercial or residential, largely because we have such a great quantity of floodplain or flood hazard areas, what's the possibility of changing our zoning or the way we approach use of floodlands, lands or whatever, so that there could be some more intensive development right in this village core area?
I guess, two comments. One thing to note in the zoning ordinance, if it's residential units, you get 4 bedrooms, which is 600 gallons per day per lot size in the lot size table. So if you've got average soils, maybe it's an acre of the land, and you get, they can go up to 2 acres of land if you're up on lousy soils in Tyrol or something like that, and maybe less down here. So, but you get 600 gallons per day per whatever the size is in the table. If it's commercial use, you get 1,837 gallons per day. So the density for commercial use, if it's condominiums are considered commercial use, you've got triple the density for commercial use than you would if you put a single-family house or a duplex house or something on a lot. So that's something. Some people don't seem to are completely aware of that, but if it's commercial use, you get triple the density as if it's residential.
Right, we can say, oh yeah, we want
So
more dense building, but the septic is what's going to drive the whole thing. We can't go beyond the state regulations.
this would still be, both of those are, well, residential is beyond the state, but commercial would be consistent with state regulations. To answer your question more specifically, I guess that would be really up to the planning board to decide if they want to. I would encourage you to allow development in the floodplain, but I know in the state's septic system perspective, you can put septic systems in the floodplain. The soils are still suitable to receive effluent, so that's really not a factor. Perhaps you could count soils if you wanted to in the. If you were looking for a way to increase the density further, maybe you could count, the soils in the floodplain, but still not allow the actual buildings in the floodplain.
Okay. Another comment that I think that Tara Bamford made, here's the information about at build out, the number of residential units in the village district would be 83, whereas at present it's 101
Residential.
residential.
Are they counting the condominiums? I'm assuming she's counting condominiums,
She didn't indicate what she's counting, but probably you're right.
and they're commercial.
I would say condominiums are residential unless they're used for commercial purposes. If they're residences, aren't they residential?
Well, a lot of times in the state subdivision regulations, they count those. It counts as commercial.
Well, another question she brought up was that right now in our zoning ordinance, we have approvals for commercial usage based on usage of gallons per day. And she said in most towns they don't do that. And so I don't know what difference that makes. Are there better ways to calculate the maximum amount of commercial space occupied? I guess they normally use square footage. Would you recommend that we be looking into that as a way to increase commercial potential here?
I guess I'm just thinking of other towns. I mean, Conway has a sliding scale, but it's primarily, you get a decreased density is when there's municipal water, municipal sewer available. But the second in Conway, you get out of that back into the septic systems, and the other ones, you're back to at least the state's requirements for purely on a gallons per day basis. So I'm unfamiliar with anybody. I mean, you gotta have the gallons per day, certainly for the state's perspective, and there's gonna be no flexibility on that on the state's perspective, you're still gonna need to meet those requirements, so. I'm not sure if you made it less dense than the states, what good it does for you, because you're not gonna, and the state's not gonna allow it anyway.
Are there residences in the floodplain area according to the new map?
I don't think so, but,
I'm assuming the build-out is based on the new map, right, the new floodplain map.
well, I guess there are some, because of the, the lines have changed, so definitely there are some dots. You know, it's, I forget if the word is small scale or large scale, but it's.
So those would be residences that we have that the build-out would not include, right? Wouldn't the build-out be based on the new map?
Yeah, probably, so I see what you're saying. The fact that they exist here,
Prior to the new map.
yeah.
How does she develop, I don't know if there are a number of 80 some unit, that seems low to me, intuitively. Just knowing the wetwork itself has a tremendous amount of density.
It's all on the form. Why don't I let you look over what the background information was? Yeah, it looks like with this new, these new floodplain boundaries, that they've expanded a lot in the village. And I realize it's very expensive for the town to try to do up a whole new study of it and try to change that. I'm sure, some individual owners might choose to do that.
Why would the town want to?
Well,
Just to get more density?
I don't know, I mean, maybe it's a question to be asking in the survey. How do people feel about the density of the village? Are they comfortable with the village as it is now? I mean, granted, everybody hates change. Maybe everybody's comfortable with it as now, but.
Well, I hate to see this whole thing just driven by one property owner.
Oh, I didn't mean it's driven by one property owner. I mean, when you look at the lines that are the new floodplain, it covers the village core, basically.
Well,
So
as
maybe
I've
they
said,
felt-
I've seen the village core flooded.
And
Right
maybe
up
that's
to the
also-
road.
But it's not just a question of density, it's also a question of viable commercial, part of the village. I think there's some argument to be made to encourage some commercial development in Jackson, because we also want jobs in Jackson that can pay for living in Jackson. So, if we put it in the survey, I wouldn't put it strictly as, do you want to see more buildings
Right.
in town, but I would make sure that really the question is getting at,
Job opportunities and commercial
right, the commercial opportunity.
possibilities.
Has anybody even asked about building commercial properties in the area?
I don't think so.
I mean, a
But, you know-
developer type asking.
Yeah,
We're always saying the Route 16 corridor basically is not developable because it's either too slopey or too slopey or too wet or too whatever. What can we do to encourage additional opportunities here? I don't know.
I personally, I think you take the whole Mount Washington Valley, so it isn't like they have a hard time driving someplace for commercial usage. Like you have Settlers Green, you have North Conway and everything else. And we have a beautiful cross-country skiing area here, and we had a lovely restaurant in town before that was no longer here. But I don't see anybody restricting anybody that comes and knocks on the door and says, I want to buy X amount of property here, and we could look at it at that time. But, I don't know.
And then also, it's the balance now. You can't restrict commercial development on the Route 16 corridor and expect to enhance commercial development in our
Right,
one
it's
little
not
place.
one for
It-
one.
It's, we have to get an overall kind of picture of what we are headed for, I would think. I mean, I think the survey should be a good place to ask those questions, but I'd have a hard time balancing out, restricting it in one place and trying to enhance it in the next place. Let's see what we want to do with commercial development. I mean, it has a benefit for the town. It's tax base with, jobs and
I don't think it's going to happen. Nothing has.
Okay, do you have any other questions for Burr Phillips?
The other one was 9.8.
Oh, that's right. Jerry Doherty, the younger, at one point mentioned to me that 9.8 was very confusing to people and it would cause more hassle for people. And I think the suggestion that he made a lot of sense.
What page are you on?
Sorry, page 13 of our zoning ordinance.
That's all right.
He, so Jerry had said that you could make a recommendation on it, Bert. The 9.8 reads, a state-approved septic system sufficient to serve both the principal dwelling unit and the accessory apartment shall be, it currently says in place, and Jerry was saying it should say approved, or for any construction or renovation is begun to add on an accessory apartment, and then he recommended saying, and shall be in place if the existing system fails. But he said we should ask you.
I didn't quite understand his last part there, but I think what people were getting at was that the way it's worded, I think it implies that the system has to actually be built.
Before the unit is approved.
Right, whereas you can get a construction approval from the state, then go build your units. And the state generally allows you, if you have an existing septic system, if you have a current approval, you can keep using it until the system fails, as long as you've got that, used to call it HIP app, like a pocket design, so that if it fails, then you know that you've got a way to remedy it. Got a place to put the system. So,
So I also didn't understand that last section, why it has to be in place if the existing system fails. That seemed a little awkward to know.
is it in place, the design is in place, or the system is in place?
The way it's worded now, the design in place, the system in place.
Yeah.
System sufficient to serve both.
That's
The
all
dwelling.
right, that's what this says, but
Right.
what Jerry was
Oh.
suggesting with his last sentence was the,
Well, maybe we can solve the issue by just changing the word in place to approved and not worry about that last.
we throw it out as an idea. Sorry, I didn't want to use a whole piece of paper. One sentence.
I want some paper. I don't have paper.
Cheap there? I'm cheap, no. Just like a paper file. So I don't know if
So
Oh, we already thought about it.
your statement seems great, except that it doesn't say that you have to actually put the system in once you get the approval. It's assumed, I guess, or should we?
no, I guess I'm not saying you have to put the system in.
Okay, so you feel you might not
You only
have
have to
to.
put it in if it fails. If your existing system fails, that's how the state works, is that
Okay,
if you get that approval, so you're demonstrating that if the system fails, you follow what I'm saying, you have a place to put a expanded new system, but you're not obligated to do it at that time.
okay.
So you're saying even if there's a system that is sufficient for the dwelling unit, that you can add on to it, and if that still works okay, then that's all right. You
Right,
don't
if your
have
system's
to.
designed for, say, 3 bedrooms, and then you're gonna put it on an accessory apartment, you can, if you have an approval to show that you can add that on, the state will generally not require that system to be built. You can go ahead and add that use or change the use, and use it until the system fails, and then replace the whole system. You may not want to do that, but that's what the state allows. I mean, if you don't want to do it, then leave it the wording the way it is, I guess. Or, I guess we can go in between. No, as Betsy was saying before, that maybe you say, once you've built the apartment, then you have to build the system before you get occupancy permit, you have to build the building.
I see. Okay.
You could do that. It's your guys' decision.
Now, you can also, ahead, say, add on to the leach field. Is that true? Rather than reconstruct a new one?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly viable. In a lot of instances, that's viable. Depends on the
Right.
setback, and they were able to do a setback on one side, and maybe you can't do it, but often that could be done. But usually, if you're going up, then you're going to need a septic tank bigger, so that you're going to have another septic tank in there or something along, or get away before it anyway. So I guess I'll throw it back to you guys. Are you thinking you would like to see the system built if the accessory apartment goes in? Or are you comfortable with the way the state does it and just having the plan B in case the system fails? Some people may opt on their own just to expand the system, and other people may opt not. If there's a mother-in-law apartment, they can say, this is a short-term thing, and I'm not going to build a whole septic system for it.
Well, then it's one bedroom and one kitchen. And if you did a new system, it's a minimum of 2 bedrooms. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. So it'd have to be a bigger system if
And
they
what was
didn't
there?
just enlarge the system that was there by 1 bedroom and 1 kitchen. So that's a good, to me, it should be, the choice. How do you want to do it? You want to take the chance and run for a while, and when it fails, you have to build a bigger system, or add on now.
Okay, well, that's helpful to get that wording. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Burr? Let's cut them loose.
It's perfect.
Well, the next,
We were once helping a friend with this.
What's that?
We were once helping a friend, Barbara Bush. I don't remember, she's from Barbara. She was moving into a house, and she needs some help working on her, finishing her basement. So, common friend Bert, and me, Bert, went to help her. I thought it was pretty funny design. Bert and Bert.
And Bush.
And Barbara Bush.
No, it wasn't P-bar for us. Deliberation.
okay, now we have an initial inquiry about a subdivision proposal, map V6, lot 25.
Hi there.
Hi.
My name is Burke York. A lot of you guys probably know my dad Art. He's been down here a few times in the past. We're based in Berlin. I actually live in Gorham, so it's a lot easier for me to come down than it is for him. And what I have here, if you guys don't mind sharing a little bit,
The brick and the
I'm sorry to be wearing my hat, but I'm having trouble with my eyes.
The lights,
Yeah.
the lights.
Lights bother me, everything.
You can share this.
They start
here,
rattling.
I'll fold this up for you guys. Okay, you got it?
There's something going around, by the way, with
Pass
that.
that one down.
With the eyes and the dizziness, there's some kind of a flu bug going on.
Oh, great.
If you would like to know
Eye
that.
flu.
Uh-huh.
Is it easier if I sit? Or do you want me to stand? How do you guys
Sit
comfortable?
right down.
Perfect.
Be comfortable. Stretch out.
what we have here is right at the beginning of Dundee Road, right after Rick Davis's place. Right now, there is a log cabin, like a reddish colored log cabin right there.
The old meaning.
Meetings?
Yeah.
Meetings whole time?
Yeah.
And then, what the current owners would like to do is subdivide that piece of land into 2 parcels. And they'd like to use a common driveway and build up in the back. So, right now, Andy Beal's place is up here, there's a little barn, just up past this property. The house sits even further up the road. This portion of the site is wooded, and, you know, mixed hardwoods, some birch, there's a couple big pines on there. I'm sure it was all pasture at one point in time. So, at this point, we have the high-intensity soils, the wetlands, everything except for the test pit and the state subdivision approval. And I was waiting for tonight's meeting to kind of make sure that we were all on the same page before I get the test pit. And I was hoping that the snow probably would have dropped by now. You know, it's been such a cold winter, it hasn't dropped. We just keep accumulating, and it's getting kind of deep in the woods.
But the most of the whole season is on the ground right now.
I know, it's crazy, absolutely crazy right now. I feel bad for the animals, the deer are really gonna take a hit.
Yeah.
So that's it. You know, it's pretty straightforward. The house has an existing septic system, which is on a downhill side.
I was looking at the wetlands that are here. Where's the house proposal?
Sure, okay, so, the existing
Yeah.
cabin is here, and the existing barn is here,
Yeah,
and the driveway right now goes in between the house and the barn.
yeah.
You've got
What they'd like to do is have a shared driveway at the same entrance, and then come across here, and then, you know, the house would logically go up in the back. That big square would be a 4,000 square foot area that's suitable for a leach field in your septic system, which is way bigger. I mean, that's what the state requirement is, and that's what your requirement is to show on a subdivision plan. So the house would be on the uphill side of that, obviously.
So you wouldn't impact the wetlands?
No, the wetland.
Correct.
You wouldn't even have to cross them?
Nope.
So that wouldn't be an issue?
Yep.
Do you have a copy of our checklist?
I do.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because when you come in with your final plat and proposal, we're just going to go right down that checklist, and everything should be there.
If you guys are comfortable with it, it's a preliminary meeting. We could go down through this and make sure that we're all, you know, you guys are happy with what I'm showing you. Is that okay?
Ready for that, gang?
Good shot.
Yeah?
As long as we don't have to go through it again, do we need to go through it again? I suppose we do need to go through it
I
again.
think we'll,
Yeah, the plan.
You know, I've already gone through and checked off everything. There's just a couple items on here that haven't been checked off, and we can discuss that real quick.
well,
We
Now,
could
we've-
review it and accept it as complete, and then not have to review the whole checklist, but the specifics. in it.
right, anything that we need that's not here.
Sure. Yeah, I know if you guys are game for that, I'm
We'll have to go through the whole thing eventually anyways. So.
absolutely,
Where's the highlights?
yeah. Okay. I guess before I start, do you know in the package of stuff that Julie gave you, did she give you the high-intensity soil report? Okay. I'll submit that. I'll submit a copy of that then, for your file.
Okay.
So going down the checklist, location map clearly showing where we are, and that would be in the left-hand corner on the bottom. The name of the proposed subdivision is right in the title block. It would be Ian and Catherine Reardon subdivision, or minor subdivision. Three, names and addresses of all owners to be subdivided, and that's on there, and it's also on the attached list with the application that I gave her.
Yeah.
4 would be tax map and lot number of lot to be subdivided. We are map V6, lot 25. The new lot would be 25A. The E911 address for the proposed lot, I didn't have that. I suspect that she would be the person to talk to.
Right,
You have to get
it's after
a
the,
911.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gives out the street
That
numbers.
really shouldn't be included on our checklist, as I understand it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can, so as far as you guys are concerned, when I come back in, that's not gonna be an issue, we can waive
My
that.
understanding.
Yeah, that has to come from the state.
Okay,
Put an NA on that.
okay. Six abutters name, tax map and lot numbers, and the separate list. All the abutters are on there. So across the street would be Rhodes, Beal, and
Cabot.
Cabot, and Rick Davis. The zoning district, the name of the zoning district, that'd be probably note number 1. Note number 1 is RR, 200 feet of road frontage. And while we're on that, we have, on the existing lot, would be, in the curve is 197 plus a whole bunch more, and the new lot is 282. So we exceed the lot frontage. Square feet and acres of the lot to be subdivided in the proposed lot. The remaining area on, is 2.44 acres, and the proposed is 2.34 acres, and we have the square footage also listed. Oh, minimum zoning requirement, yeah, that's on there. The scale 1 inch equals 100 feet or better. We're at inch to 40, I think that's better.
I think so.
Better
I can
for
see
me.
it.
Yeah, I've got, what I have is the copy of the little one,
Yeah,
it's
it's
8 by
The
11.
PDF that you took off the computer.
And I had my magnifying glass on.
Yeah, those are kind of tough to read. We have one at the office that's like, almost like a half globe.
Yeah.
That you can just kind of
Yeah,
scroll
move
around
around on it.
Yeah, I think we got it from DeLorme, and it works pretty good. But North arrow is right here at the top of the page. This is all tied to New Hampshire State Plane Grid, so it's all GPS stuff. The plan date would be the lower right-hand corner, right under the title.
For March 2014.
The surveyor certification statement, I certify that, and that's out of your regulations, the 7.051, and that would be right here. And it meets the minimal closure, name, address, and seal of engineer. There's no engineer involved here. So I've just got an NA. Proposed tax map and lot numbers, it's 25A. 16 would be boundary survey, including the bearings and distances, and we have a complete survey of this.
Oh, there.
Existing and proposed topographic contours at 5 foot or better. These are 2 foot contours, which were necessary for the high intensity anyway. All zoning setback lines in the year-round streams. There's really no year-round stream. This drainage that comes down through here is more of a seasonal deal from the pasture up above. Setback lines are shown on there. It's a dashed dot. So I think we have 50 in the front and 20 on the sides.
25.
25 on the sides.
Yeah.
Soil map clearly indicating soil types and soil boundaries with poor and very poor drain. So we have the hydric and the high intensity is on there, and you have the soil also. Soils chart, the minimum lot size, that's in the upper right-hand corner. And the percentage of the lot is shown, of how many lots we can have. So lot 25 is, we meet 147% of a lot, and 25A is 127% of a lot. So we exceed on both of those. Floodplain, if it floods up there, we're all in trouble. You laughed. I mean, I was sitting here listening to the story when you guys were talking to Burr earlier. I just did an elevation certificate up in Stewartstown. And a guy called me and said, I need, my bank is requiring this, and if you guys aren't versed in flood zone stuff right now, the new maps came out, and they were effective in 2013, February of 2013. And supposedly they're supposed to be better than they were before. They have better technology to get the topography correct. The guy called me and he said, I need one for, my bank is telling me I need this, and it's gonna cost me $1,600 a year, and he's telling me where he lived. And I said, you gotta be wrong, because where you live, the river, the Connecticut River, is it's probably 100 feet below you. And he says, I know. And I looked at the new maps, and sure enough, he's on Route 3, and where the river is, I actually had to go and map it so that we could get him out of the flood zone, so that FEMA would actually take him out.
So
couldn't call.
you had to establish, this is, I'm interested, you had to establish the stream, from the stream, or from the river?
Yep. We did a LOMA, a letter of map amendment, which basically a LOMA is just showing that the lowest grade around the house, so anything touching the house, the lowest grade is higher than the flood zone. So it could be an inch, it could be 10 feet, it could be 100 feet. In his case, he was 125 feet above the river. And there was no chance that he was gonna flood, none. It's just, and the same thing that Burr said, it's just wrong. It's completely wrong, and FEMA will not, it's been accepted, and that's it. It's up to the individual landowner. And again, for a couple houses, it's $400 or $500, $600 to get the houses out, versus the town trying to remap the whole thing at, probably cost the town $25,000 minimum, So, anyway, so it probably is not gonna flood up here. Surface waters clearly identified and delineated. That's right there in the wetlands. Existing buildings and other human-made objects remaining. The house, the barn, and then there's a shed out back of the house. Those are all gonna stay.
Should.
Question back on flood waterways. You show wetlands here. Is there any water course there at all? Or it's just
No, it's
Just
just
wet
kind of
area.
seepy,
it's
yeah.
seepy?
Yeah, it's all that hillside, it's all that hillside stuff that kind of drains down through.
Okay, so there's no
It's
defined
real.
waterway?
No,
Okay.
no, and the driveway has an existing culvert that crosses through there. I'm sure during periods of heavy rain, there's runoff that comes down through there, but no real stream. Where are we? We're on
It looks like
20.
your high-intensity soils pretty much come right up to the wetlands areas. Am I reading that right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, his soil's boundaries are real close in most cases. In some cases, you see where it kind of loops around and kind of cuts those corners off. And even out here in the, down below the septic system, there's the high intensity kind of loops out and around, but for the most part, they follow those drainage areas.
Well, yeah, because that's a particular type of soil. But, so the two should line up.
Okay.
We're on 24, all existing or proposed easements, rights-of-way, buildings, and other essential site features such as rock ledges, stone walls, and tree lines. The driveway is a shared driveway. It will be a shared driveway. And we have a center line. There's an A, B, C, and D. And I've actually got that right in note 3. I've got the description of that easement, so it has the meets and bounds right on this plan, so that there's no, there's nothing that, prohibits it from happening. Well, there's no mix-up, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right. If this goes to another family or another party,
It's right on there.
they know
Yep.
where it is.
Yeah, and it's not just in the deed somewhere. They look at this plan and they'll know that there's a deed easement. In the original deed, Cabot, who's out in the back, there was a power line that runs up, there's a utility line that runs up this driveway to get up into the back there. This piece of land where that pond is, where Rick Davis, that used to be part of our property. So there is a deeded easement, but that's now on his, not on ours. Open space to be preserved. It's just a minor subdivision, we're not really preserving any. So I put an NA on mine. Deed restrictions, if any, I haven't had none. Location of existing proposed water supplies, wells within 200 feet of lot to be subdivided, show protective radii. So right now, we're showing the proposed well right here. You know, once it comes time for a septic system, that may change as long as it's all within the lot. But there's plenty of room for a well and a 4,000 square foot area for a septic system. The wells, Cabot's well is shown, Rick Davis's well is shown, and their septics, their approximate location of septic. Andrew Beals, he's so far up the hill. You know, I mean, I can go knock on his door, but it didn't seem sensible to go mapping a well or anything.
Doesn't it say within?
Within 200 feet of the lot, well, of the lot.
Yeah.
But he's still more than 200
Yeah.
feet from the lot
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, I guess I was taking it at 200 feet, you know, any lot within 200 feet, which was his. Yeah, that's the same thing on 28, the well and septic. I've shown them all except for his, and again, his house is so far up the hill that it wouldn't seem sensible that his well would be down by us, and he's so far uphill.
Right.
And then 29 is engineering sheets, there's no engineer. 30 is engineering sheets for proposed sewers and septics, you know, we don't need that. 31 is engineering.
Are you on the back of the sheet now?
Second sheet?
I'm on page 2.
Yeah. Isn't that all for,
Yeah, typically, that's not for a minor
Major,
subdivision.
yeah.
Okay,
Really for the bigger
okay.
distances.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of progressively gets like that. I know in Gorham, what we did, which is kind of neat, it's kind of similar to this. What they did is they set up their sheet, and yours is real clean and clear. They did the same thing, so minor lot line adjustments, you need to have this. If you want a minor subdivision, it's this plus this, and if it's a major, it's this plus this plus this, and then that covers everything.
I think we'd be smart to redo ours.
Yeah.
that way.
But I mean, yours reads pretty clear, but I'll give you a copy of that next time I'm down.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we should burn a copy now, and then we'd have it all separate.
Rick, you know, you could email it to me if you'd like.
Oh, yeah?
That would be great.
Yeah, it's pretty neat how it's set up, so, what's your email address?
BETFEYH44@gmail.com.
Okay. And you can forward it to everybody?
Yep, absolutely.
Super.
That's good. That'd be so helpful.
Okay, so I had the NAs on that whole shooting match right down through. And then on the next section, you have non-plat data to be submitted, which would be the state subdivision approval. And like I said, after I leave here tonight, if everybody's comfortable, then I'll schedule a test pit with a contractor and get in there. Probably Jay, have him go in there and dig a hole. So that's it.
Any goal radiuses that, I hear you mentioned those.
I mentioned those, across the street, Rhodes' house, it's way down in the back. And I
What is any way you can, just to have a disclaimer on that, so it's clear, in case any questions.
Disclaimer.
They don't know, the fact that the wells are so far away,
Oh, I see.
you know, and they're supposed to be on there, and technically they're not,
Well,
you know. I mean,
how does it read? Is the wells within?
Within
200 feet?
200
feet.
200 feet.
So if there is no well within 200 feet, you wouldn't have to have it on the
It doesn't
plan.
have to show up if it's over 200 feet, and it's over
But you're
200
right.
feet.
Well, I mean, what he's at, yeah, what he's saying is you don't know unless you go approach the person and say, where's
That's
your
what I'm
well?
saying, I don't know they're 200 feet.
Yeah.
Unless I just specifically ask for a waiver on those two. and the board can
Did you
usually
check
grant
with
that.
the roads as to where?
I have not, no, no.
Because that could be within 200 feet, certainly.
I mean, just something that says all the wells radiuses are beyond 200 feet, no need to be reported. I just feel more comfortable
Or
on that.
Tannehill used to be
Yeah.
Tannehill.
Yeah, Shannonhill's right there, that's what I was thinking
Yeah,
there.
no, that's out back,
It's out back. I can ask my own.
yeah.
It
So
seemed
that,
like,
that was the one I was
Andrews
thinking about,
and
that one,
Maine.
'cause I figured that would be the closest one.
Yeah.
The
And
one
that-
on Andrews?
Tannehill's old house.
Oh.
No, it wouldn't really.
So if you go,
I don't know if that would, meet the distance or not, but I was just, that was what I thought.
well, I'm just saying even from
From
this
here,
point,
Maryland's
Oh, from
house,
the new
if
one.
that's 150,
the
feet.
house,
and the house is down,
Okay.
the house is
Still-
down.
the
here.
house
over there.
that they're gonna build is gonna be up here.
yeah.
Okay, Maryland's house, there's her driveway going in there and it's way
And
over
it bears to the
there.
left.
Yeah.
It goes
The
around,
old
yeah.
Durbin house.
But her lot is still within 200 feet of the,
Of that one.
True, but the septic system or the
Well, it's not.
well are not.
Septic
Yeah.
system is over here, over there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You're comfortable with it, I'm comfortable with it.
that I can guarantee.
Yeah,
I don't know where it
Good
is,
job.
but the well's up there.
nice. So,
Now, also part of the application, I have a bunch of money. Postmaster, there's 6 abutters, including the landowner and me. So that's, and the current rate I called today is for a registered letter with return receipt is $6 a piece. So that's $36. Your fees for the town come to $174, and the Carroll County is $25 for an L-chip fee.
yep. So what do you think? Any issues? So can we give a tentative approval, however you want to word it, so that when we get the Mylar and the other, are we ready to stamp up and?
We still have to do a public hearing anyway, so.
Yeah, we still have to
Oh,
have the
that's right.
butters.
Yep.
But we can, I think, I mean, I could, for example, make a motion saying that we received a completed application, so that we wouldn't have to go through this, I think. Did I miss something?
Should we state then that we've gone through the checklist?
Yes, were there any items, I didn't note down any items that are missing other than 911?
No, I think we had it all.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll make a motion that we consider a completed application, received with all the checks and such, ready for the hearing in April.
I'll second it. I'll submit that checklist to you while we're all at it.
All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? There it is.
Super,
Nice job.
thank you.
Yeah,
you did
nice-
a great
nice
job on it.
presentation.
Appreciate that.
Try.
We don't always see that.
Yeah, my dad's been in business since '71, and, he wouldn't be in business if, we didn't try and do
I
the best we
remember
could,
you
so.
came down on the Salt and Salt project.
Yeah, on Henry's thing up there. Yeah, that one was a little bit more, needed a little more creativity, and,
Yeah,
some are easier than others.
yeah.
But if all the easy stuff was done, all the easy stuff was done years ago, really, so. No, I had a business meeting down here earlier in Bartlett, so I had time to kill, so I took Dundee Road around from the Bartlett side, came around. Now, a couple miles past this property on the right is a gigantic house that's got some rolling hills that's been logged and everything like that. Whose place is that?
No,
Probably a couple miles past this on the right.
Is that near Crossroads? In other words, if you're going over to Bartlett?
Well, yeah, if you were
No,
coming
no.
from this property heading towards Bartlett.
Is it on the right?
Yeah,
How far?
Right near Crossroads?
No.
no, before that.
You,
Would it be, Piedcourts?
Oh, Piedcourts, yes.
Piedcourts.
Oh, yeah. What is
Up
it?
at the top of the hill,
Yeah.
John Piedcourts.
Right near the gate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 He always wanted to build a big house.
So you pick one and then.
First retirement.
Two people in it now.
Right.
And he's got a couple
And
of
you could
ponds.
bowl downstairs.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't see the ponds actually because it might be under snow.
Yeah, well, there's a whole bunch of rolling terrain.
Yeah,
We've got
yeah.
some neat little places
He
cut out.
likes
Boy,
to plant trees.
And a
too.
lot of birch and, he's done a lot of,
yeah,
Yeah.
neat piece of property.
it
And
is.
Linda Olchak is his wife. I don't know if you know either one of them.
She has a greenhouse, she flowers.
Oh, yeah, because I saw some pines that were obviously planted.
Oh, yeah,
There's
he
some
likes to
plantation stuff,
plant
so.
trees, he really
Fun.
does.
He's got one of,
He's
he
got two
used to have
ponds.
one of those
Rabbits.
diggers.
Oh, yeah. Fix the whole trees and
Yeah.
by the root
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe my ticket will win this weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
His stuff together. At least all plans that they don't need
Yes,
now.
it is, after you sit a while, it's cold.
Oh. That was so nice. He read the whole
But you
thing.
have your leaves, so that-
Really nice of him.
Yeah, but I skipped that Gary 5, did you know that?
No, you didn't, I was keeping an eye on you.
All right, now, has everybody come up with their questions on the build-out study for Tara Bamford? Drive safely.
I think Vern might left his jacket.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
dear.
Yes, he did.
You guys,
It doesn't fit me.
want to check it for a wallet, or?
I'll take care of it.
All right, thank you, board, have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, here it is.
Well, I had some questions or changes, I guess. On page 2 of Tara's submission to us,
This one I want to look at.
Yeah, I saw that.
the very first sentence at the top of page 2, where it begins, it is also assumed that willing landowners obtain lot line adjustments over time, and I would just add in or subdivision approvals. At the top of page 2,
Oh, no, I'm not
No, that's
doing the
it.
right one.
if people don't have it, I can make a copy of mine that's scribbled all over. Yeah, it's the one with this on the back.
This one
Yeah,
here,
yeah, yep.
this one here.
Yep.
That's how it is. Is this it?
Red and two.
I don't have one.
That's it.
Oh, this is it?
Yeah,
That's the one.
Okay. So, at the top of page 2, I propose that where it talks about the willing landowners would obtain lot line adjustments, I would just add or subdivision approvals.
I don't have that, do you?
That's you got the one.
Just the cover.
Maybe I,
What page do you have this one?
Page 2?
It's this one now.
This one here?
Oh.
Okay.
What's that
I
from?
had the wrong one.
Oh, you know what?
That's a different one.
There must be, oh, okay, so the policy note, that is a different one. Okay.
Is this the one?
No.
Yeah,
They had a
because,
map that was folded inside of it.
What it says on the cover is Jackson, New Hampshire build-out analysis
Yeah.
draft report,
Yeah.
January 9.
okay.
It's the one she gave us, I think at the meeting before last.
Yeah, obtain a lot line and checks from,
That's the purple one.
Yeah,
yeah, okay. I remember
so,
that.
There it is. It
That's-
doesn't have the, there you go.
Yeah,
thank you. So at the top of page 2.
yeah.
Is that okay?
What did you want to say on that?
Where it says it is also assumed that willing landowners obtain lot line adjustments, I would add in or subdivision approvals over time.
It just seems to me that sort of the purpose of the whole report is what kind of subdivision can happen. And that lot line adjustments are a little different in that those are already existing lots, but
You're
they're
just,
shifting the lines.
fine.
I mean,
But you take it in.
I don't think what you're saying is necessarily wrong, it's just, I think I can see maybe why it's not included there.
But you take an instance like the one we just heard tonight, where they're taking one existing lot and subdividing it, and we'll get an extra house out of that.
Right. Which is what the build-out assumes.
Right.
Okay.
That's what the build-out is.
Right. It's saying,
Where
take all
can it
this
be?
land, and how many,
Subdivision.
how
can
many
do with it.
houses can you put on it?
Whereas a lot line adjustment might give somebody access who didn't have access before. Like,
Right, well, I think, I mean, it's just,
Or in line.
it's
in
fine
line.
that whether it's lot line adjustments or subdivisions, it's just changing the boundaries to allow more units to be put in. And the whole thing about this build-out is that it's not site-specific, so that
Right.
there's, you get a big number, but it's not really a realistic number. I mean, because as far as you're looking at the lots, you know, there's some lots where it might, if you take the square footage, that yeah, sure, you could get more houses on it, but in practicality, you probably wouldn't. So. Oops.
Are you saying that you think that that kind of statement should be included in it, or is it you just?
Well, I think that we all should understand that as we're talking about it, and especially going to into the public hearing, public meeting about this, is that really should be stressed that, you know, this is would be the maximum that would be allowed, just taking it on a, you know, acre by acre situation. And because I'm fearful that some people just look at the numbers and say, what, the planning board wants to put this many houses in Jackson? And maybe what, in the information that goes out to announce the build-out, was talking about that the reason for the build-out is to see how our present zoning regulations, how they would control what the development could be, and that it's using that as a way of determining whether we should change zoning ordinances. But before you change any, you want to find out what is it your goal, and what is the goal of the town and the townspeople as far as the future appearance of the town, and do we need to change our zoning ordinances to achieve that goal? So I don't have anything to say to Tara as far as changes to be made in the report, except for a few typos, but which I'm sure she'll catch. But I think it's more, we need to look at how we're going to present this to the town, and what kind of feedback we want to get from the town.
Before we go too far beyond, I did on page 3, I would like to see in number 5, where she says, at least it makes sense to me to say, land currently used and classified as commercial.
Yeah, my question on that is she saying that it's classified, that's in our, the assessors?
That's my
Information?
understanding, yes. So some of those are non-conforming uses,
Right.
but they're currently classified that way. So,
Right.
to me, it would make sense to, first of all, early in that sentence, to say land currently used and classified, and then later on, maybe right after where it says continue as commercial/industrial, we might consider adding even if currently non-conforming or something like that, so that people would understand what that means.
Okay.
And then I would also, in that same paragraph, the last sentence where it talks about undeveloped land was assumed to be fully developed for residential use, and I think that's confusing too, because I think you could say it was assumed to, or eventually to be fully developed for residential use. So, because when you say undeveloped land was assumed to be fully developed, that doesn't make any sense.
In the build-out, she needs to,
Right.
you have to say that the
So you might
build-out,
have the word eventually, or in the build-out.
the build-out assumed that,
For the purposes of build-out.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So then you wouldn't say was assumed, you could say, well, you need something to imply that it's future, not now. Because right now, people would read it as now, maybe.
So if you say for the purposes of the build-out, it was assumed
That presently undeveloped land would become fully developed for residential use.
Right. Great, that's good.
Now, I think the question was already asked, but you can clear my mind. Is there any way to put Tara's work on a town map that shows what lots already have a residence on
That shows what?
them? What lots already have a residence on them?
Or to say it the other way, to show lots that are undeveloped at the moment.
Okay, or, yeah, either way would be fine. It came up today, we interviewed for the building inspector, and that was one of the questions that they had, was can you kind of put down on paper, you've got the town maps out here with the lot, which ones have, you know, have been
You should be able to get that
developed?
off the assessor's maps.
Well, that's what I thought, maybe
Matching
the
it up.
assessors would have it.
The data that she gets from the assessors. I don't know what the form it's in or how it can be
I-
ordered. But it would obviously take another run with the GIS
Right.
to do that, which would
Did
be.
we ask her? I think we determined that wasn't included in our price. I'm not sure. Did we ask her? I think we
I
might.
don't remember.
Well, maybe it's just to come from Jason. I don't know if he could create that within our, because he's linked to our computer.
System.
System. Maybe
Okay.
also might be able to do in the office, I don't know.
You could ask, couldn't
Yeah,
you? You know.
I'll ask. My pen works.
Okay,
Do you want a map of residents or not,
Okay, take the maps that are out on the table. Which ones have an actual residence on them?
And are you asking that they be translated onto this?
Well, I don't know if that,
Or just.
I could see it being helpful, but I'm not sure if it's helpful for the build-out analysis.
Right, because you've got some, like, I don't know, 140-acre lot that has one house on it.
Well, like the
Yeah.
one we just did, I mean, it's
Yeah.
5 acres now, it has a house on it, they're gonna cut it in half
Make
and
it-
have 2 lots.
Yeah,
So I'm not sure how it fits with the build-out analysis, but I can see that it's a handy tool.
Right,
right, and that would just be to have
Yeah.
a map for the town that, it'd be a lot easier for him to do, just to mark the ones that are undeveloped, that have no buildings on them.
Because then you do undeveloped conservation easements, current use, and you start to get an idea of, you know, where the development really is going to hit.
The only other concern or question or whatever I had about it, I think, was at the bottom of page 4. I'd like to see her include on number 10, saying something like landlocked parcels not presently developable are counted in the analysis because access to those parcels may be obtained in the future. And I'm thinking specifically of the fact that she has included up in the middle of the National Forest land at the far end of Carter Notch Road and the Dana Place Trail, the land that's a parcel owned by, I think, FX Lions, which eventually he may want to use as a wind farm or something. He
This
says,
one?
yeah, way up there,
That's the
that
land?
white parcel there. And it's totally landlocked. And to get a road in from Route 16 up the Dana Place Trail seems unlikely to me. But she insisted on including it because it is privately held and the restrictions might someday be lifted or somehow become available, access to it. So I'd just like people to understand that there are some element of this total count is really not likely to happen until certain major shifts, you know, maybe seismic changes occur and lower that site or something.
Or everybody has a personal helicopter,
That could be
you
too.
know, that,
An ultralight.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have frontage, so they couldn't do anything there.
Strap the kitchen sink onto your ultralight and you're all set.
So,
So is that okay to add?
can you say it again?
I would set a number 10 or somewhere in there. She could readjust it as she'd like, but I would say something like landlocked parcels not presently developable are counted in the analysis because access to those parcels may be obtained in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else. Excuse me. Oh, and she asked that we get them to her tomorrow, didn't she?
Yes, she did. Okay, so we're good with the questions for the build-out.
Have we submitted any alterations in our zoning as, you know, what would happen if we change frontage, or what would happen if, is that possible?
Was that part of the contract?
No, well, I read being members of the North Country Council, and we're supposed to get some input from them for being members, but I don't know.
Well, don't we had, what was our contract with Tara?
Right.
We did discuss it briefly with her, and I think she said that the frontage really wouldn't matter at all.
I think I remember, more I was using that as an example, but are there any zoning changes that we might contemplate, and would this be an opportunity to see what impact those changes would have? You know, this is an opportunity where she can just plug a different number into the program, and so it comes out, so we have that information down the road.
Yeah.
You know, we could, without her saying frontage won't make a difference, we could spend a lot of time thinking about frontage, going through, you know, changing our zoning to a new frontage and all of the hoopla I'm sure that would entail. But if it doesn't matter, then
Right.
we'd know up front that doesn't matter, we wouldn't bother, you know, waste our time doing it. But I don't know if that was possible or not. And I guess I don't know, I'm trying to think what other zoning, I mean, whether it was going to a state septic as opposed to our own, you know, what impact that would have.
We can only become more stringent, we can't become less. So the state standards are,
Right, but we're more stringent than the state now, so we
Yeah.
could back off
Yeah.
to just the state.
Mhm.
You know, what impact would that have if we accepted the state septic as opposed to?
Okay, here, this might be a really dumb question, but when you just said that, didn't the town adopt state building codes? Does that not apply to the state under septic systems?
We can always, we cannot have a building code that is less stringent than the state. We
Oh,
can
okay.
have a building code that is more
Things, yeah.
stringent.
Okay, thank you. told you it was a dumb question.
But it is.
No, it's the same.
No, it isn't.
It works the same.
It isn't, but our zoning ordinance allows septic systems, or does not allow septic systems to be constructed in the way the state would normally approve, except for if they're doing workforce housing or something like that, I think the way it is written now. So we're less stringent if there's a sort of public purpose being served than the rest of Jackson. That's when we allow state standards to be used. Other than that,
Is
I'm
that
not
fair?
sure why.
Is that fair to do that?
I guess that's encouraged by the state law. You have to find incentives. The state law that says towns need to make plans about workforce housing, they say you have to find incentives that make it workable. And so when Mike Mallett attended a meeting,
When was that?
Years and years and years ago, he
Yeah, I have a
he commented that he felt that kind of change would maybe make a difference, that could make constructing that housing be affordable. So to meet state law, we proposed that and the town voted it in.
It's a fine line to walk between, how do you enforce it, or how do you, allow one thing to happen here and not there? And
Yeah.
so we'd have to be careful on how we approached it, because you don't, you want it to encompass everybody and be fair for everybody. You don't want an advantage for someone here and not there. So I think it's a good idea, but I think we have to be careful how we word it.
Is that something that we need to work on to present to people, like the 100-foot setback? you
Yeah,
were
because
saying
I'm
earlier,
starting to
that-
think about this idea of a community presentation. We better start doing some more, of what we want to present. There'll be places where we don't know, can't answer it at this time. If there's questions, we'll put them on the
Survey.
community survey. But we're still going to be put on the line for some of this, that people are going to want answers right then. So we really have to think about how we present it. We'll have to see
And how
what we get
people
back.
here.
How do we get them here?
Yeah. how we get-
Cookies? Always.
A planning board pig roast, that'll bring it.
Yeah, that would be good.
That'd be great.
Yeah, we have a pig roaster.
The planning board
Yeah.
ought to
Yeah,
take up
Randy
that.
has a pig
That's
roaster.
right.
Plus you could do a turkey on the side too.
The annual planning board pig roast.
But have it warmer.
Yeah, I'll talk to Sweeney and see what he says about that. It'll help. I can talk him into it. Okay, so we have the questions pretty well, for now. To go back, because then we're going to have the document from Tara first to certainly hash out at the meeting before we want to invite the public in.
Well, I thought we were scheduling her presentation to the town for the next planning board meeting.
Right, we reserved the Whitney Center for April 10th.
Okay,
That was the day we decided.
And this was the meeting we were going to do the planning for that.
oh, that's a great idea.
That's
Well,
what I
let's plan
assumed. I just went through Tara's contract, and it doesn't say anything about what the build-out would be with different scenarios.
Not included.
Not included in the 8,500.
Okay,
Is that
then.
how much we're paying her, is 8,500?
That's for the build-out, and then the additional steps, possible would be to conduct a community visioning session to get needed input for the doing the master plan, and if a community survey is planned, to begin developing the questions to include, and it says the staff would meet with the planning board to plan the event, develop an event flyer, and facilitate the workshop, and provide a report summary. That's for $3,000 in addition. And then for $2,500, conduct what is sometimes called a regulatory audit to review the master plan and land use regulations, to assess the consistency between the community's goals and the future in which the existing land use controls will likely result. So that is the additional. So what you do for the additional money would be to have a, essentially, well, community visioning session, similar to the one that we had way up at Black. Yeah.
I thought she made one community presentation.
She does.
She does.
So that's the April 10th one.
To present
Okay.
the buildup.
Then I question having that at a planning board meeting. Just like tonight, if she was going to come in and have a presentation, and then we still have to, hang on and do business first, then have a presentation, I almost see it as a conflict.
Okay, we'd set that date with her, but, you know, we can certainly try to change it.
Well, what do you think? I mean, I put that out as an idea. Trying to lump it all into a Thursday meeting is kind of tough, to do business and have this community presentation.
We could probably have our regular meeting start at 7 o'clock, and then at 7:30 have Tara's presentation,
Okay, because
because we've already accepted this, and unless there are public comments,
well, York's coming back next month
right?
for that, so we know we have to do that.
So we could do that from 7 to 7:30, recognizing that, you know, there may be somebody in the audience who wants to make a comment or two on it, but that we've already heard that it's complete. We haven't found any difficulty with what he's presented so far.
Okay, you think that we should have it all in
Well, I
one?
don't know.
Well, that's what you seem to be expressing, so.
Okay.
I think we would get better attendance if it wasn't. I think if we say we're having a planning board meeting, part of the meeting is, et cetera,
You will
Just
I
have it.
think people would just see it as
Yeah.
another planning board meeting.
Yeah,
I think if it was a singular
Right.
event, that people might pay more attention to it. Plus 7:30 is a little late,
Mm.
I would think, for some people to.
Well, I think that I think it should be a standalone.
Yeah. I think you'd get
Presentation.
better attendance.
I think it'll be, I think there'll be a better attendance. I think we can advertise it a little easier if we say that's what it's going to be. This is what's going to happen.
So we could have it after and achieve that, but again, 7:30 is getting a little late, I think, for people.
Yeah. But if we had a 7 o'clock presentation, that's what's happening, I'd almost say we could move our meeting either earlier. We could have it Tuesday
Maybe do
night,
it
Sure.
either like 6 o'clock, or is that
or
too early?
do it in the afternoon. What do you think of that? Dave,
We could do it
you
at
flexible these
6:15 or
days?
6:30 or something. We know it's not probably going to take too long to do this one, so I wouldn't have a problem with that if people want.
So what time do you think start
Well,
Well, are we meeting the Whitney Center?
Yes.
that room is reserved if you,
So we would then have our meeting in the Whitney Center, and Tara would be setting up her stuff.
Yeah.
You ready for a presentation at 7?
We have a regular meeting here, and it's 6:30, whatever.
So I was thinking have the presentation at 6 or 6:30 and then have our meeting after it.
Oh, I see.
Just thinking that more people will come if it's earlier in the evening as opposed published.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Tara would appreciate it too.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
So does
She has to
six
drive.
work? Is that a good time or a bad time for families
Seem-
and so on?
Seems early for me, as for an evening meeting. I mean, if people working till 5 and wanting to get something to eat before going to a meeting.
Who
Does it
would
usually
want to
be?
do that?
6:30? Is 6:30 too early?
I don't know, just most meetings have been at 7, that's all.
Well,
Doesn't
I
matter.
suppose if we advertise it at 6:30 with brownies and cookies and good stuff like that, we might get a turnout.
Right, that could be dinner.
Could be dinner.
It often is for me.
All right,
So then
6:30.
we'd have our planning board meeting. I should maybe ask Tara how long she would expect it would take, but, so we schedule the York presentation for what, 8 o'clock or?
See, that's
7:30?
what I have a
Yeah,
problem
see,
with.
that would be late for him.
Is then turning around to do business.
Yeah,
So maybe back to starting with him at 6:15 or 6:30 or something. We know it's not going to take 20 minutes.
I always
That's
do
not
that,
unusual.
have York early.
Yeah.
yeah.
We know that date is good
Have
with
have
Tara, so
him
that's what
early
I'm
and then
nervous
have the
about.
meeting at 7?
I'm sure that he wouldn't be opposed, because, I mean,
No,
he's got to
heck
drive
no.
down here and drive back
Yeah.
again. So I think the earlier that we had it, it'd be convenient for him. It's just I want to make sure to advertise the meeting
That's totally separate.
properly,
Yeah.
Mm,
um, because it is a public hearing.
yeah,
So,
and just as that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
okay.
Well, it's like what the school board does at the annual school meeting. They have their meeting, school board meeting first, and then
Yeah,
the annual meeting.
So what time do we want to do the York hearing and the...
5 o'clock.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
5 o'clock, so then we do that and we go home and we come back down for the meeting?
Who's going to go home? I'm going to go eat the cookies. No, okay, so then it'll be 6:30 at the Whitney for the presentation.
Oh,
Is that,
Right, but we would only need to then meet at 6. If we're going to do the presentation at 6:30, then
Okay.
we probably only need a half hour for our meeting, right?
okay, so 6 would be fine.
Yeah.
I can turn a 5 into a 6 really easy. Watch.
The meeting here or the meeting over there with the cookies?
I think to keep my focus, we should have the meeting here with York
Okay, oh, good idea, okay, yep,
and then go over there
for the cookies.
and set up for the presentation. Okay, so I'm going to advertise public hearing here,
6:30.
6 o'clock. What was it, April 12th,
10.
10th? 6 o'clock for that, and I'll get
For the planning board meeting.
and then we'll make that the planning board meeting.
Yeah, and that's at 6.
And
The meeting is 6 for
Yeah.
us, yeah, and then the hearing, the presentation is 6:30.
is that what we're saying?
I don't know, I'm just trying to get the
Yeah,
time.
well, that's why I want to get a consensus here of what
Well,
people think.
I'd like to have a little more lead time. I mean, she's
Yeah.
got to get there, you know, I don't
Yeah.
want to give you.
Yeah,
some-
that's
what I'm
So,
trying
are we
to-
back to 7?
You want to do 6:30 and 7?
or you know,
No,
we could
6
be
and
in that
7.
little
6 and
conference room
7.
adjacent to the big room.
Oh, there you
So that
go.
we're in the same space.
Okay.
And have a small distance to go.
Okay,
that works.
I mean,
So
that's
what
fine with
do-
us, but
what's-
don't we have to declare that, public
But I'll,
meeting is,
yeah, I'll advertise it as such if it's
oh,
going
to come into the little cubby hole over there.
Yeah, well, if we
conference.
just say at the Whitney, and we just put a sign up, planning board hearing in there.
And there's that little room that it gets
Yeah.
really crowded, but I don't think there'll be
Yeah.
a large attendance.
Well,
But I don't think we'll be overwhelmed.
Right, if we do get a number of people, we could move into a larger space, but I can't imagine.
That would be easier for Sarah, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, then we'll all be in one spot.
Okay, so the planning board meeting is at 6 at the
I
Whitney
gotta
Conference
stand up
Center.
and get
Yeah.
that cramp and
And then the build-out presentation.
And where do we get the cookies and brownies? Are we the people cooking?
I said,
They'll be coming for my cookies.
Do we want to get someone to
Should we see if there are some inns or whatever that would help?
do?
Oh, we could just take planning board money and we got a whole bunch of money for this build out.
Well, that's an idea. Order them from
And-
J-Town
and-
you know.
Or J-Town or the bakery, I'd go to the Vintage Bakery. I mean, have you been there?
I have not been
Yes.
there.
Oh,
Oh.
it's fantastic.
oh, vintage?
Great
Yeah.
bakery.
Where is it?
Down next to the Red Parka.
Oh,
On the other side of the parking lot.
Okay. I wasn't
And
there
so
once.
maybe we should also use the Jackson, the Backcountry Bakery, spread it around a little bit, especially in Jackson,
Sure.
with a sign maybe.
The J-Town Deli, she does a very good job.
She did all the goodies for the
Town
social
meeting.
before town meeting.
And I don't know if she got paid for it or not, but it might be nice.
She did, I
if we
wrote the
have
check
to-
out.
I absolutely think we should spend, how much is it gonna be? I mean,
$10?
No,
Oh,
no.
we haven't made cookies lately.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay, $20, $30.
I just had sandwiches made for Karen Amato. It ain't gonna cover your kids.
well, we're just getting cookies, but, and we can make coffee at the Whitney Center.
Yeah.
They have a coffee maker.
So what time are we on? We've been back.
So the last I heard was public hearing,
Yeah.
6, and then our meeting, end meeting.
Yeah,
Planning board meeting and public hearing for the Reardon.
yeah.
And then build out presentation 7,
7?
yes.
Okay. And that will give us time to,
And who
Okay,
makes
that's right.
coffee at the Whitney Center?
And this is April 10th,
There's a coffee
right?
meeting, I'll find out more.
April 10th. April
They-
10th.
Just get coffee.
They should be open.
And we can get that donated by grants, maybe, we do that sometimes.
there may be some left over from the town meeting.
Still in the
I
pot.
know.
Yep.
You know, it's been cleaned out.
Or in
No, they-
the Dunkin' Donuts cardboard boxes from
Box of
Election
Joe.
Day.
Oxen Joe?
Yeah,
Yeah, the box of jam, yeah.
Okay, there's a Fifth Annual Art Celebrates Place. Local artists, the Upper Saco Land Trust presents, and I believe it's at the, you know what I'm trying to say, Tin Mountain Conservation Center. That will be, I read these things ahead of time. Oh, April 4th, from 5 to 7:30.
So have we decided how we are going to publicize this build-out presentation?
Well,
What do we want people to have ahead of time? How are we going to get people there?
I think that it'll go on e-news, if we're still allowed to post things at the post office, we'll post it, and I would think that a strong word-of-mouth campaign, I'm
You
sure.
want something in the
Yeah.
Conway Sun?
I would propose that somebody who's used to writing for newspapers be one to draft an article about it.
I'm going to be out of the country for the next 2 weeks, so I'm not going to be
All right.
available, I'm sorry.
Where are you going?
Going to Panama.
Good
Right.
for you. Maybe you won't have snow soon.
Leave with 4 feet of snow here and go down to 90-degree weather, yeah.
But we can do it through the school, there's,
I think you do have to post for the meeting anyways, right?
yeah, I have
Yeah.
to post the
Put
meeting.
on The same thing.
Yeah.
Well, why don't I draft some sort of article about it and send it around to people and have them edit or change it or whatever,
Put it on
and
town hall.
then if it gets accepted, I'll submit it into the e-news and the newspapers.
E-News, Conway Sun, then we can incorporate the public hearing,
Yes, okay.
we'll do all that.
Do we know, you threw out a question at one point, what do we want to present? Have we already decided what we're doing?
Well, I think Tara is going to
Yeah,
make
that's
the presentation. I think we're going to field questions.
So we'll just sort of introduce her and...
Introduce her, get her going, and be ready to
Answer questions.
answer or tell people, okay, this is what's going in the community survey.
Okay.
I think have it so people come that we want to get their feedback, and that this is maybe a way of getting people thinking about what we want Jackson to look like in the future. And see if we can get suggestions from people. That's more of a build-out presentation and a listening session. Maybe something to put the the emphasis on what the people of the community want, what their feelings are, and reactions to the build-out.
I'd like to keep it focused on what are the questions to go into the community survey. You know, and it will be just what you said, just exactly what you said.
So getting questions from the
But-
audience, not us giving questions.
Right.
Okay.
That we're going to field those questions and say, okay, we don't have that answer because we haven't talked to everybody in town. But with the community survey, we have an avenue to reach everybody and get their opinion. And that's what we're hoping to do is, come on, folks, tell us what you want.
Do you think we should have pieces of paper and pencils for people to use, and they can drop it in like a suggestion box kind of a deal?
That might be,
Some sort of index card type things or something.
yeah. Right, we could probably steal one of the ballot boxes and turn it into a suggestion box.
Or else just have them lay their cards out as they're walking out the door.
And we won't have to have a checklist, we can take questions from anybody. Okay. Oh, I forgot to, I got a handout from, okay, here's this one. 20th Annual Spring Planning and Zoning Conference, New Hampshire Office of Energy and Planning. Anybody that would like to attend that, I'm sure we can work out a scholarship. I don't
Where is
think,
it held?
it's the Saturday, the 3rd of May, and it will be at the Mountain View up in Whitefield.
Oh, boy.
Well, that's better than driving to Concord.
Still is pretty far enough.
Okay, so anyway, that's coming up. Anybody that,
Those are really very interesting meetings,
they're great.
very helpful.
My name is Jeff Stern, Oxford County Soil and Water Conservation District. They're going to have a conference. I think it costs $35. That will be on the 23rd of April at Freiburg Academy. Would like to get input from New Hampshire folks, planning board, zoning boards, any of it. Anybody interested, please let me know, or Betsy. So that was two of those.
You said that was April 23rd?
April 23rd. Oxford County Soil and Water Conservation District. Anybody want to extend the meeting a little longer?
Doesn't that sound like fun?
Then I would accept a motion to let it go.
So moved.
Favored?
All right.
I won't even ask.
Roll call vote on that, please. Thanks, Hank, for sticking it out, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anytime.
John, you should have seen the guys that came in today.
Oh, yes, I heard, Bill talked a little bit about it in a meeting today.
This is what I went to.
They knew what was going on.